I got a bat in my hand. It.
Cool, guys. So welcome back to another episode of the Two Guys Build a Biz podcast. We've been super excited this week, so we've been sharing a lot. But just kind of wanted to jump in here. We were kind of tossing around some ideas about different things to talk about. We've kind of introduced the podcast now, talked about, kind of having a good day yesterday, and Derek had some ideas on stuff he wanted to chat about, and I don't know if you wanted to jump in and...
Yeah, I mean, just something that I enjoy personally about like podcasts and stuff is just conversation. So mainly just wanted to start a dialogue and just, go over maybe what we did today and then dive into some other topics.
Yeah.
What did we do today?
Yeah, so super fun day, to be honest. I mean, we've just been like really productive. I don't know if it's this new co-working space and just kind of like being excited and feeling the energy or what, but got some contracts out for deals that we got verbals on yesterday out via DocuSign, moved some stuff along, kind of started the day out together here with a lead that we had, basically a newer kind of e-commerce store. Yeah, did a full pitch, took them through, and it's really cool kind of seeing us progress as a business to the point that, it used to be like we'd spend all this time preparing for these meetings, we'd be nervous, we'd kind of be waiting for the other one to kind of like answer these questions sometimes, and now we just have this flow where it's like we jump on the call, no matter what they talk about, like we have 30 different ideas to toss out there, complete confidence, we're like, we've done this before, and we have, it used to kind of be like we'd have to say no to a lot of those things, like no, we hadn't done that, but we can, and we ended up closing like a lot of those deals, and it wasn't a big deal, but it's just fun to come from like a position of like complete confidence and just knowing that, when you're talking to somebody, you can really deliver what they're looking for, and that you're the person they should be working with, and just have complete confidence in that.
Yeah, there's like zero preparation in that call. I mean, It was like, yep, we got a call in 5 minutes, and it was like, okay, it was like 58, 59, get in the conference room, dial the phone, playing with our computer cords, and like not really. But yeah, once we get on the call, we're just super engaged because we've been there before. We've done it before. We know the questions to ask, and then bring up questions that maybe they haven't even thought of in the sales pitch. When I started talking about, they're an e-commerce store, so they're from the ground level. They haven't built their they're still wondering, should I go Shopify, Wix, WooCommerce? We usher them towards Shopify just based off of the level of where they're at, and I think where they want to be, that's going to be a nice, easy to use platform for them. That was exciting. Kicked off an engagement too. But yeah,
real quick, 2 pieces of value I just wanted to kind of throw out there that Derek's really good about getting on calls is he was talking about those questions to ask. One question you should definitely ask clients that they maybe haven't thought about is, 1, how many clients can you possibly take on, or how much more business can you bring in before your business breaks, right? So if you bring in X number of clients, is that going to put you and your team under where you're going to have to hire more people? If they're like a gym, are you going to need to bring more coaches in? Are you going to need to bring more consultants in? Are you going to need to bring more product in? How much more business can you take? How greatly can we scale you? And that is typically something they haven't thought about themselves. So it immediately establishes you as like, okay, these guys are asking questions that I haven't even asked myself about my business. Completely, like, aside from what you're talking about with social, they're like, damn, these guys know what they're talking about in terms of running a business, and I'm getting value out of the conversation. The second is kind of in that same vein, like budgets. Have you thought about, aside from our management fee, like, do you have any idea what ad spend you're looking at? Or like for an entire holistic marketing strategy, like what does your budget kind of look like aside from what you'd be paying us?
Because they had no clue.
Yeah. And you don't want to ask them like, what would you pay for a service like this or something, because then you kind of put yourself in this pricing box. But getting some kind of a feel on, especially if they're like a new business, what they're willing to invest will help you make sure that you price yourself appropriately. Because you can't do everything for everyone. You don't want to do everything for everyone unless they're willing to pay you enough for you to do everything and for you to feel good about that work. So kind of doing that needs analysis, finding out where they're at, and then finding out how much they can invest today will help you kind of construct a package based off of the fastest track to ROI. Maybe you start with a couple services that are going to start bringing in some new faces, and then worry about like optimizing different parts of the funnel at a later date. So
yeah, and we didn't even know the answer to those questions until we did break our business.
Yeah.
So like when you ask those questions, they don't even really know the answer to it, and it sounded like they hadn't been asked that before, and we know that we are up against other competitors, so it just separates you a little bit too from the pack and gets them anything that you can put in their court that's going to make them think and go, wow, I haven't thought of that before. It makes it A, seem like you really care about their business, and B, it seems like you have enough experience in the game to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. And I mean, you need to keep in mind too that if anybody's taking your phone call to talk about these services, they want to hire somebody that knows more than they do. So anytime you're asking them a question, as long as it's not a very simple question that you should kind of assumptively have the answer to.
I think the camera just shut off. For the podcast, guys, I'm just going to jump and turn the camera back on.
One eternity later.
All right, so we're back. Apologize if that was a little weird for the podcast listeners. We had our cameras shut off. We're doing a live recording here, so hopefully all that made sense. I was kind of rambling at the end there, but so we kind of wanted to just chat about like the entrepreneurship spark. I mean, it's just such a huge part of Derek and my life. It's like what we're passionate about. Everyone we try and connect with is kind of in this entrepreneurial world or thinking about those lines, or just really good at their craft or what they do. You don't necessarily have to be running your own business, but just kind of thinking along like the remote lifestyle, like the distributed team kind of community and entrepreneurship. It's all kind of like this new work ecosystem. So we just kind of wanted to chat about what drew us to that type of lifestyle, some of the struggles and frustrations we had with our old jobs, and what kind of lit the fire, I guess, to get us to this point that we're at. So Derek and I both have like completely different backstories that's also like very connected in so many different ways, but just kind of wanted to open it up and tell you guys a little bit about us.
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I guess just want to talk about like what inspired us to, or me personally, to go into business or create this agency, and what lit that entrepreneur fire. Was it something that was always there or just kind of came? So to me, I think a lot of inspiration to work for myself and start my own business really came from working or from my dad. I mean, he was always a carpenter, self-employed, independent contractor kind of a guy, and he basically was really skilled at what he did, and was confident in his skill set and knew that he didn't necessarily need a job because he could go out and work anywhere. I mean, his hands were his tool set, and he could go out and provide and make good money, just because he just prided himself on being the best at his craft. And I remember, like, as a kid, he had worked for this place. I won't name it, but they're actually local, and it was like a contracting supply place where he would like make countertops in this factory and then go out and install them. So they're kind of plug and play kind of countertop systems. And his boss was a dick or something like that, and I think I was probably like 8 or 9 years old at the time. And he came home one day and he's like, "Yep, quit my job." And I was just like, "What?" I'm like, "Do you have another job lined up?" He's like, "Nope." I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Yeah, just told my boss to fuck off." And I was like, holy shit. Like, my mind was just like, are you kidding me? Like, do you have a backup plan? Like, where are you going to work? Like, how are we going to get money? Like, what's going to happen here? And just like the level of calmness of him was just inspiring, because he was just like, yeah, I don't know. I know that I'll find something, because like he was just so confident in his skill set that he knew, like, I didn't have to work for this person. I can go out and do this myself. I can just take the business practices that they're putting into play, get my own LLC business cards, put my own name on it, and get my own customers, because really they're making money off of my skill set. So my skill set is the value. It isn't the fact that they have wood and nails and that doesn't matter. It's the person that's putting that into practice. And like, just to like, that confidence that rubbed off from that was just like, it just kind of broke the social norm of, get a job, work the 9 to 5, always work for somebody, because that's the only safe way to make it in this life. So that was just really inspiring to me, even though it's kind of a messed up story, but just his confidence in his own skill set, and just made me understand that it's possible, because he I helped him come up with a name. Doors and Drawers was what we called it, and we would sit in the living room, and he would just kind of like spit different ideas, just like how we tried to come up with like names and shit for our businesses. What about this name? What about that name? I don't like that, or that's catchy, but that's corny, and like just coming up with different brainstorming ideas. So it was cool to like be able to like sit in the living room and kind of go through that mentality and just see what that takes. And a lot of people don't ever get that type of exposure. So granted, he wasn't doing anything like digital or anything like that, but like he always wanted to own his own business and was always self-employed, and was a big dreamer for sure. So a lot of that rubbed off on me for sure. So even when I got into like corporate gigs and things like that, I was always just thinking in the back of my head, like, this is just temporary. Like, this isn't going to be forever. This is a great opportunity. I'm going to milk it for everything it's worth and try and, make as much money and do the best I can. But like always in the back of my head, I was thinking, okay, how can I leverage the savings that I have to put into buying something or getting a loan or starting a business of some sort? And it just always seemed to be this impossible feat, to where I needed $500,000 to go and buy something, to get something off the ground. And curiosity, one thing leads to another, and I think the internet is just a massive tool, because there's so much that we've taught ourselves, and it have gotten me to the point where it just opens up your mind when you see other people doing it, that you can do it too. So like the post that we put on Instagram today, like what Dave said, like, we're not special, anybody can do this. And not a lot of people believe that. Like, people don't. Like, they think it's like this great idea to like go out and start your own business, but to actually go through with it and make it happen, it's just like, that'd be the dream, but it's always, that'd be nice, but it's just so far-fetched to most people. But it's realer than ever and easier than ever to get into your own business. And
like, that's such a good point. And it's kind of funny, like, as and I'll share my story in a second. Like, so many points in my life I've thought about like entrepreneurship. I almost went to college in high school for like an entrepreneurial degree, and I didn't really know like what it meant. All I knew was that I liked the idea of it, and I was scared of like the work and kind of this mystical, like, there isn't like one path.
It's awesome that they offered that.
Like, and it was a school that I didn't actually attend. They had their St. Thomas College in Minneapolis is like the school, and I was kind of considering it, but there's no roadmap, and that's something I'm going to get into. Is like, there's no one roadmap, and like every day there's more roadmaps emerging. Like, there's people that are Instagram influencers who have built entire businesses literally off of having a consistent fan base on Instagram, that are making more money than me right now, or more money than a lot of people, just because they took action on one thing like every single day. So like in I don't know like how we're going to communicate, like how we're going to package it, but like I'm currently obsessed with like this idea of like these service-based businesses where people that are currently doing, like, whether you're a web developer or a graphic artist or managing social media for your company or just posting to social media or anything. And there's so many skills that you don't even realize that you have, that you can go make another $1,000 every month, another $2,000 every
easy.
month. Like, and, you know, pay down your student loans that much faster, put down a down payment on a house, like pay off your car loan, just by doing like a little bit more work after hours, and like learning to sell, which, you know, not everybody can do, but maybe you have some other strengths. Maybe somebody can sell for you. Like, there's so many different ways that you can start a business in today's day and age, and do it with a laptop and nothing else, and your phone.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even need a laptop anymore. You can like invoice through mobile apps. Like, it's literally unbelievably crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the access level to these tools. But that isn't to say that like you shouldn't go and get that corporate job, which Derek touched on. Like, I firmly believe that I wouldn't be able to be a part of this business if it wasn't for the jobs that I had. Like, learning to sell, being an outside sales rep, being on the road all the time, like having the confidence to walk into the first on-site meetings,
business operations,
like how to put together a statement of work, like what legal contracts you need, what payment terms on an invoice are like, so you don't look like an idiot when you send it over to your client for the first time. Like, the questions to ask, like how to come off like with a polished representation, and like how often to talk to your clients. Like, all these different questions are all things that I picked up along the way. Sales is something that was Derek and my career, like 100% up to this point, that set us up to go and get our first clients. It's been a huge part of our success. Working for a smaller company personally, I was exposed to like a lot of different stuff. Working for a huge company, Derek was exposed to like a whole other side of things, all of which has kind of come together to be our biggest strengths. So whether you're in college, whether you're like in high school, there's ways that you can get started today. There's value in doing that. There's value in waiting. But at some point, you know, if you're thinking along these lines, there's going to come a time where it eats away at you, and you're either going to need to take action on it and start making stuff happen for yourself, or sit on your laurels and never take action and always wonder, you know, what could have happened. So
was that the earliest kind of memory you have about entrepreneurship? Was like that class that came up? Or
well, it's kind of weird. Like, for me, it's always been like this kind of strange piece. Like, listening to like Gary Vaynerchuk, like he was very like obsessed at an early age. He's like, I was selling baseball cards, you know, hustling, right. You know, and like wheeling and dealing, and like people with like their lemonade stands. But like for me, I was doing like different creative things. Like, I was always kind of like creating different things, or I was always frustrated with like the way things were done. So the first entrepreneurial type thing I remember was using like Microsoft Publisher back in the day, and trying to like make a family newspaper that like I could sell for $0.25 to like all the members of my family and like make an allowance for myself. Or, you know, I'd always like record like the new songs to like a cassette tape.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd charge my friends like a fee, like Brad and like the kids on my street, to like listen to these tape mixes I put together that were just like awful. And I tried to like make a radio station, and like I remember reading about like how Edison had like his little can thing, and like his friends would like communicate. So I was like, maybe like I can charge my neighbors to like listen to my radio. And like I never thought about those things like until way later. And although I wasn't like trying to make a business, I kind of was, you know, like it. And those were kind of like my little things, and like I never really thought much of them at the time. But it was just me being frustrated with like the way the radio worked back in the day, and the way like the paper. I was like, I don't care about the stock market. I'm 11 years old. What's relevant to me, you know, to hear about my cool show and tell, you know, like, so those were kind of like my first things, I guess. And then like when we worked at the recruiting firm together, it was just like I was so antsy and frustrated with so many of the ways that things were there. I'm like, I could be completely remote right now. Like, why can't I do this anywhere?
Yeah.
You know? And
that job was frustrating, but like it's totally set us up for what we're doing. Like, all the crap that we were doing then, just basically, we did a recruiting job, and we're pretty much handed a chair and a phone.
Yeah.
And said, all right, good luck. And that was it. And the company was medical device recruiting, med device type positions, and they had 15 years of experience in that space, and we opened up this like marketing segment. So they didn't have any previous candidates for marketing, so we were like looking for people that were e-commerce based and analytics based and doing ads and PPC and things like that, and like Google ads. We were looking for people like that, and we had no history of a company to like back it up. So when we would call up these places, it would be like, you know, we just kind of had to front that we knew what we were doing, and like we were literally building up a business from the ground up. And even though it's like super frustrating to us, like that we didn't make a lot of money, you know, we were poor as hell, but like all those fundamental steps that we took building that business for somebody else, we were able to translate, you know, to our own business. And then after that, we've done sales, which has helped us tremendously, just being able to sell our own services. But yeah, all those lessons were super valuable.
We literally, it was like our first corporate job. Like we didn't even know like what titles were. Like we didn't know what a marketing director did.
I couldn't believe recruiting was a thing. Like David told me, I was working, we both worked for like Apple tech support, basically just getting our heads reamed every day about somebody that lost their contacts and walking them through how to do that. And David left, and I was still working there, and it was just shitty. I moved up to tier 2, which was like the best position. Dave did that as well, but he went and got a recruiting job, and I remember him telling me about it, and he was like, yeah, if I make a sale, I get this amount of commission, and blah blah blah. And it just like blew my mind. I was like, I didn't even know that that's a thing. Like, you're literally making money off of connecting someone with another job. I was just, it was just so foreign to me. Like I was making $13.50 an hour or whatever it was, and that was my paycheck. So I knew what I was going to make each week, and if I was the top guy, I was going to get an extra $500. And wow, that'd be so great if I got $500. I remember like looking at my superiors like, holy shit, if I could make 40 grand, like, oh, I could have an apartment, I could do all this stuff if I was a supervisor. And like that seemed like a big deal. And then the moment I saw the guy that owned the whole building show up in a like a Pontiac, like a G6 or something, that like just an old Pontiac G6, like that was his car. I was like, this is the guy that runs the show, and he's got, you know, not that that's a horrible car, but like I just pictured him being at the top. Like this is gonna be the top dog. So I could slave here for 14, 15, 20 years, and I'm gonna be that guy. And then David tells me about this recruiting opportunity where you can make all this money. I was just like, fuck that. Like, I wanted that job so bad. And David finally, once he got you know, a little bit of a reputation, he got me in there for an interview, and that was kind of the start to my sales career, which was fucking awesome.
I mean, it was like the most grueling work ever. I mean, it was like literally like my first 30 days. It's like you have 30 days to basically make shit happen, or like you're not a fit. And you know, like so many things that it was like you'd get a commission, but you basically first of all, you're paid a draw. So like they don't even actually give you like a base salary or anything. So you're basically working for free until, you know, you're in like they're giving you this small stipend of money that you, as soon as you place somebody, you have to pay back. So I remember my first commission was literally didn't even like pay back the 2 months that I'd been paid. So it was like, okay, like that is the most frustrating thing of all time. And like the splits, it was just like, but we had this mentor there who just taught us like all this stuff and like all this like self-worth value stuff, and just kept saying these things like, you guys are hard workers, you're 6-figure people, like don't ever like doubt, you know, your capabilities and what you can be doing. And like the work ethic and like the effort and what was instilled in us from that job has literally set me up to do any freaking job ever. Like 100. Hearing no all those times, all those people hanging up on me. Like my next job was going and being a business development representative at like this information security company, and like because I was the guy who would always say yes and always take, like, oh, can somebody do this? Boom, it's me, I got it, done. Like I got promoted right away and like learned all this stuff. And you know, Derek went on to like one of the largest agencies in the US and like blew it out of the, literally broke their systems for commission to the point that they had to like revisit, and like he ended up getting fucked. So let's gloss over that.
Yeah, it was like a position where like they capped you, like you could only make $60K, and I just fucking made this multi-million-dollar deal that just blew the whole like comp plan to shit. And like they're just like, what the fuck, this guy can't make, like if they would have paid me like without a cap, like I could have taken, you know, the next year and a half off and just sat on like $250,000, but they're just like, yeah, no way this like $60K entry level sales position is gonna like make $250,000.
Literally like anarchy. People are like, but yeah, I mean, that all this is to say is like those, you know, it's funny. So the other day, while I was at this job, like I ended up moving out of my parents' house, like thinking that I had like these commissions coming.
Oh yeah.
And moved in with some friends and was like getting really low on cash, and like ended up.
Dude, you had to work like 2 jobs and shit.
I was taking donations at like a local thrift store for like on the weekends just to like pay my rent and be able to like eat food and stuff, and was getting like super burnt out. And that was when I was like, okay, enough. Like I'm not happy here. Like I finally took the call from a recruiter that recruited me to go and find like what ended up being the best career move I ever made, going to that other company I was telling you about. But the other day I took some donations to this place where I was like taking these donations for $7.50 an hour on Saturday and Sunday when I wasn't recruiting Monday through Friday. And I just like had all these memories of that, because I literally went from there, like literally my take home was probably less than $20K a year between the 2 jobs, to making over 6 figures less than 6 months later for the first time. And like wherever you're at, like things can change like so fast if you just like are persistent. I could have gone and gotten like another job that I was interviewing for, making like a fraction, or it could have made me more than like I was making at the recruiting job, but it wouldn't have been a fit. But like things just align sometimes when you're just patient and like know what you're worth and like see it through and go after what you want, as opposed to what's just kind of like handed to you, I guess. So that was just like a weird kind of moment that just happened to me. I was like, man, like I remember like literally going there and being like just completely helpless.
Yeah.
You know, like hoping one of my candidates didn't come and like bring donations and see me like taking donations on the weekend. Like, you know, and now here we are, you know, it's probably been less than 4 years since those days total. And we've just learned like so much from our respective things. But to circle back to, I guess, like the entrepreneur stuff,
yeah, that's crazy that it's only been, it just seems like a lifetime ago. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Like for me, the thing about entrepreneurship for me is like once it kind of clicked and I started seeing, like I remember seeing like these digital nomads and these people like building businesses online, like doing drop shipping or, you know, some of like the online coaches. I've never really had like a huge interest in that, but I've seen like people build very successful businesses with that. Or I've seen people, you hear these stories about people who go and buy something at Walmart and like flip it on Amazon for like twice as much. And like basically these people who are just like doing these growth hacks or figuring out like how to run a business like just from their laptop. Like no matter how much money I was making in my other job, it seemed like I got my cool new job and I was making more money than I ever made. And I was like, it was 3 months, 4 months, 5, 6 months after I had been taking donations, and I was used to this new life, and all of a sudden I was bored again. And that sounds like the dumbest thing ever. Like making more money than a lot of people will like make in, you know, their lives.
You're just messing with the mic.
Oh, sorry if I'm banging.
I just like boom, boom every couple of.
And like I'm bored.
Yeah.
You know, and I started trying to make this vitamin subscription business with a friend, and like there are all these challenges like legally that we couldn't, no matter how much money I was making, like I didn't have the money to like go and get like this FDA things to like do this type of business, so it fell apart. I remember this kid Phil, like we started trying to make like a repository of like blog information and like A&R people at record labels that we could sell into like the music industry, and like it was something we tried, got burnt out with, went back to our day jobs. And like this thing with Derek, you know, it was kind of like, I'm like, I've got enough energy to do like one big push and like really see like what's happening. And I call him and I'm like, hey, like I just realized like my company's about to be sold. I'm kind of on the outs. I'm super frustrated, no longer happy. Like I either need to go to a new job, but I had this entrepreneur like itch. Like what would you think if we started our own recruitment firm?
Yep.
Because I was like, the commission, we were basically like making the company 30% of the commission, which we'd make 40% of half of that. So it was like this small little sliver. I'm like, but what if we were making 30%? You know, if we closed like 8 of those a year, each of us would be making over 100K. He's like, that sounds awesome, but man, like just kind of like not super pumped about like the whole recruiting thing.
Yeah.
Like let's give it some thought, but you know, I'm not really happy where I'm at, like coincidentally, and like let's give it some thought. Calls me like the next day, and he's like, dude, what do you think about starting like a marketing agency? And I'm like, I'm not opposed to it, but kind of like the same thing. I'm like, I don't know how we do that. Like, I don't know marketing. Like, you work in marketing, but you're not like delivering marketing services. You're selling them.
Yeah, I was selling digital marketing for this huge agency, and like, I saw a video that it was like a marketing course on how to do this and like how to actually learn the skills behind it, because I was selling it but didn't do it, and saw that ad, and then called up Dave and was just like, what do you think about this? And I remember he was like, I feel like I really caught you off guard. You're just like, yeah, like that could work. And then like I was super like pumped about it because I had already like built myself up in my head, and I was like, yeah, there's this course, like, you know, we could get it, like I think it'll really do it. And like I had already like hit confirm and like paid for it and like I like literally had already bought the course. I was like talking to you, and then you're like, yeah, let's think about it, you know, there's probably a lot of other courses we could get. I was like, yeah, totally, just fuck it, I'm just buying this course. I'm like, so I already know.
Let's clear the air. It was a Ty Lopez social media marketing agency course. And my experience with Ty Lopez was, I want to punch this fucking guy in the face. Just because I had seen his like
ads
me in my garage, as I'm sure a lot of you have. But I was kind of the opposite. I built myself up. I'm like, I was ready to go to war with like recruiting again. I was like, man, it's gonna suck, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And then he pulls like this total left turn into like this marketing thing, and we ended up going for it. And like, I can't even tell you guys like the amount of things that had to kind of like come together for us to find ourselves on the phone having that conversation. And then, because we hadn't like been in a ton of like really tight communication.
We didn't like
that
talk
point.
For like 2 years almost. Like,
yeah, like
it was a while.
And for some frickin' reason, man, like I was up late as fuck one night, just like pissed about work, thinking of like ways out, feeling trapped for the first time in a while, like actually like worried about like my future at the company. And I'm like, I'm gonna call Derek and talk about a fucking recruiting company. And like it turned into this. I mean, it's one of those things that sometimes like I just like look back on and I'm like, how it's crazy. It's just crazy to be where we're at. Not to like get tangential there.
Yeah. But. No, we took it slow. I mean, we kept our day jobs and just went out and got 1 client and then 2 clients and then 3 clients. And then we were managing that, like taking calls on lunch and like calling after hours and like meeting up with people on the weekends and like locking ourselves down like whenever there was just like a holiday and stuff. And
the freaking stuff we were dealing with in those times. Look, you guys, we're literally like on Saturday afternoons sitting in our apartments like all day, cold emailing businesses. Like that's literally, we literally pulled up Google like we're like, what industry should we go after this week, do you think? Well, how about local gyms? How about coffee shops? How about this? Okay, we literally pulled up Google Maps, found every person's email address that we could find, and like that was our sourcing, because we didn't know like where to find like lists or anything like that.
Yeah.
And our whole goal was to spend like as little amount of money on it as we possibly could.
Even before that, I would just go to like every town has a strip mall or something, or like, you know, you've got a big Target or a big Walmart or a Costco or, you know, one of these large corporations, and then just on the other side of it, like in its shadow, is like a strip mall with 30 businesses that you have no freaking clue what they are, what they do. And I would just like drive into those parking lots at night and just sit there, because all the signs are lit up and I can see what each one of them are, and I would just sit there on my phone and just type in each of their names, and I'd have a little note, my note app, and my Safari app on my phone, and I would Google their name, find them, look at their Facebook, look at their website, and just take notes like website sucks, social media shit, and then and then Google their phone number and their email, and then compile a list of, you know, maybe 10 of the businesses that looked legit, and then call them the next day and get nowhere. But I mean, that was like the process to like get the ball rolling.
Dude, and like we got clients from that. We got clients from seeing people commenting on different advertisements for like competitors. For different groups. Like our first paying client, I saw a comment on one of the ads for the Tai Lopez course that we had bought, saying I would pay somebody to manage that. And like I literally screenshot it, like sent it to Derek. I'm like, dude, like I'm walking into a business meeting, like I was on the road at the time. I'm like, send this chick an email, Facebook Messenger, like whatever, like just, you know, get in front of her.
I was at work in the middle of a work day, and I Googled the name, like pulled up the website, and just ran to a conference room to where my manager couldn't hear me, and then shut the door behind me, called her, and just, you know, their gatekeeper or whatever answered, and just said, you know, this is so and so, how can I help you? And I was like, I'm just calling back, you know, whoever's name it was. And they're like, oh, what? She's not here. I was like, yeah, she wanted some help with social media. I'm just calling her back. And then put in a verbal message with that person, and then immediately Googled her name, found her LinkedIn profile, found her business email that wasn't on the website, and then followed up with an email address. And then she got back to me like that day and was just like, hey, super impressed that you actually like called and got through to me, because my girls are trained to screen out people like you, and you found my actual email. It's not, I don't even know how you found that, because it's not on the website. So I'll take your call. And then, you know, took the initial call, built a proposal.
Dude, from that first phone call that Derek had with me about starting an agency to this person having like a signed agreement with us was less than 2 weeks. Period. Like less than 2 weeks.
It was super fast.
And look, I honestly just think that that's because we didn't let anything like stop us. Look, I see so many people in these groups like,
what do we make our name?
When do you guys start like going after, you know, when do you think your skills are good enough to like go after clients? And the answer is when they're willing to pay you for your skills, which is right now. Like the thing, it's a trade-off. Like they don't have the time to learn themselves. Like you just need to price yourself at a point that like they're going to let you kind of fall on your face and learn some of this stuff, but save them time. Like they don't want to fall on their face and learn this stuff. And if you make it a price that makes sense for them, they're going to pay you to do it. You know, a lot of them can't afford like an agency or an expert or like a crazy. So like price yourself at something that makes you happy and validates your business, and then you're off to the races.
Just to go back to that client, I was so pumped because we I don't know, I think David was traveling or something. Were you traveling when I pitched him? So he was traveling, so I think he was in the airport or something like that, and I was at work, and this was like, we had that first conversation, you know, this is we had that first initial needs analysis thing, so I took a bunch of notes on like what she wants, what her goals are, and we put together a Canva presentation of just first slide, what your goals are, second slide, you know, what you're missing, third slide, what we can do, fourth slide, pricing or something like that. And we had 3 options. And Leader, I think, was the name of our like highest package, which was like $2,500 a month. And then I think we had, you know, a couple other prices like at $1,500 and then maybe $1,000. I can't remember, but $2,500 was like the highest package. And like we basically made that to like, so she would go with the middle package, like, oh, I don't want to be the cheapest, but $2,500 is a lot, considering this is like not even a real business, you know. And we were honest with her too. Like we let her know she's like our first client.
Yeah.
And I had my tablet. It was like a Kindle tablet that I was like following along. I had just emailed her the proposal, so I was like walking her through it. And so I ran out to my car and like had the conversation at work in my car, walked her through it, got to the end, got to the close, and she went with the leader package, which was a $2,500 a month thing. And I was just like, oh my God, like on a 12-month agreement, you know, that's $30,000.
Yeah.
Like for that one customer.
Yep.
And, you know, hang up the phone, tell her, you know, tells me to send the contract, call up Dave. I think he's in the airport or some shit. And I'm just like, hey, Dave. I'm like walking back to my car because I got to get back to work. I'm like, she went with leader. And I didn't say anything. And Dave was like, what? I'm like, she went with fucking leader. and like, I don't know what happened, but I think he just like it didn't click or something.
It was so crazy to me. Like I forgot what we named the things. I was I'm like, that's the biggest. He's like, she went with the biggest one.
Yeah. I'm like, I laid out the 3, she went with the biggest one.
And like that was after that happened. I mean, it was like there was no going back. It was like something like just clicked.
Dude, it was like fuck. That was our first like. All right, throw me the ball.
Yep.
I got a bat in my hand. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Knock it out of the park. Like that was the unlock. Like, okay, shit. We're doing this in
business banking so we can take her money.
Yeah, like how do we even get paid? Then it went into that whole thing, but like just the mindset to start the business, it was just like the best confidence booster for us. Like literally our first at bat. Well, like maybe second because I talked to that salon and I mean we made cold calls, but this was like our first like pricing proposal. Like we made it through the initial call, the needs analysis. You know, they want to see some numbers. They're interested. Like the first Spectrum sale and like fucking nailed it. Like that was just awesome.
We had like so many questions too. Like what makes sense? Like all those questions. Like if you're wondering how to price any business you're running, like we had no idea. We're like, I think, you know, like this is kind of like the playbook. Like this is what we've researched online. Like this is what makes sense. But we didn't know any of it for sure. We had spent like a lot of effort. Like we spent probably 6 hours on a Saturday really just like creating this whole like pitch deck to take her through and like make it look all polished and stuff. And like we had spent a ton of time like putting that together, and you know, not all that is to say, like it was just like so validating that we were like doing the right stuff. And like the first couple of months, you know, the first 6 months of the business, like I was literally on the road like 3 weeks a month, like doing business in the air from like my other laptop. I'd like travel with 2 laptops because I didn't want like my company to be able to bring like litigation for them, me like using their supplies or like any of this stuff. Like talking to clients in the airport, like Derek and I are like leaving lunch to like pitch people like over lunch. Like we literally set up like client touch point calls, you know, depending on like the time zone, so that we could like do it around our work schedule without like raising eyebrows. You know, cold calling, I'd have like a list that I'd hit over lunch, you know, for 45 minutes trying to like make some connections, which worked. Like, I mean, I remember we pitched like this local gym, went and met with them on like a holiday. Our biggest biz dev day of that entire 6 months was the day after New Year's. That like we knew half the businesses in the world were going to be off, but we knew that half of them were going to be on, and that we could like get a hold of them. And like got I think 2 clients over time from that.
That gym is still our client to this day.
And one of the other ones that like we're parting ways with, but it took 8 months for them to start doing business with us, but we ended up doing business with them, you know, from Odom.
Oh, okay.
From that initial conversation. I mean, you know, so all that is to say, like the money's there. It's out. There's so many different places you can find it. Like, just don't let that be a barrier, I guess. Like, I don't know. And I never understood, like, I didn't think that I had like these skills that I could use, but there's so many that you can go and like learn and like turn around, and not crazy shit like coding. Like so many, like I always thought, oh, I'd have to like learn to code or like create crazy websites. We charge people like at least $1,500 just to create like a templatized, Weebly or Wix site, because they have no idea how to do that, and they're elated with how it looks. Like, and we use like another site builder that, it's called I'm Creator. It's great, but like people will pay you to set that up. If you know how to post to social media, people will pay you to do that. Like you can literally make another $1,000 a month just to like manage somebody's Instagram account. If you go and find them.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I would have known that back in the day. Like I could have made extra money on the side, but there's just so many different ways. It's crazy.
Yep. We should probably wrap this up just because since we're running on a phone battery here and everything. But yeah, this is a good talk, man. I think hopefully people like this style a little bit more, just kind of conversational. I think we'll still have our normal content, but cool. So I like it. Guys, subscribe, comment.
Yep.
Let us know if there's any like topics that you want us to cover, because we're just kind of spitballing here. So
like, is it technical? Is it stories? Is it like sales methodologies? Is it client retention tactics? Like, how can we help you? It doesn't, obviously we run a social media agency. Like, it can be about any kind of business, e-commerce, drop shipping. Like, we have clients in all these different spaces. We can answer any kind of questions around anything. Cool.
Till next time.